Na 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 na. You may recognize this clip from the hit Cleopatra film from 1963 with Elizabeth Taylor. It's funny how a British American Academy Award winning actress reminds most people of the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt. When we hear the name Cleopatra, we usually visualize a beautiful temptress woman. Of course, Elizabeth Taylor comes to mind. But the rumors of a gorgeous Egyptian queen that is well recognized in literature and Hollywood films is largely inaccurate. While Cleopatra is one of the most well-known figures and leaders in history, the Cleopatra we often picture isn't who the real pharaoh was. One of the first common mistakes people make is that Cleopatra was born Egyptian. However, this statement is very untrue. Cleopatra was Greek. In fact, her whole dynasty was originated from Macedonia Greek. Greeks ruled Egypt in the 1st century BC, but it's not hard to see why people make this mistake. But still, we fail to demonstrate Cleo as who she really was: a political strategist, a genius, a tough woman to get by, and a witty negotiator. But yet, people tend to focus more on her beauty or who she slept with. There is more to Cleo than that. The woman had done so much in her lifetime to be recognized for, rather than what her social status was. Cleo was born in 69 BC in Alexandria, Egypt, as a part of the Ptolemaic dynasty. She grew up and led in some crazy times, events such as war and the expansion of the Roman Empire, which was affected by Cleo in many ways. Her personal ties and historical context were the big parts in these crazy times, both which explain why she made the decisions she did and what kind of style she portrayed as a leader. A lot of Cleopatra's leadership style came from her father's reputation of extravagance, self-absorbency, harshness, and sexual looseness. Growing up, she observed her father's traits. As a powerful monarch, she paid attention to him, both negative and positive traits. For example, his negative effects were his self-interest. She wanted to be different from him in that sense. She wanted her people to know she cared. However, she also took some of her father's positive traits to her advantage, because growing up she noted her father was able to read Egyptian symbols. This was likely the first spark in her interest to master the entire language, which wasn't accomplished by any other previous pharaohs in the Ptolemaic dynasty. Because the Ptolemaics came from a Greek origin, they did not feel the need to learn the Egyptian language of their subjects. But Cleo was different. She valued the opinions of her subjects. Therefore, she learned the language. When she was about 14, her father was exiled because of political matters, leaving Cleo to rule alongside her co-ruler younger brother. Because Cleo knew the language, it gave her and her subjects an unusual but special bond. Because of this, she received the title as a people's princess. Because she was born into royalty, she had confidence in her status, which is important if you're a leader. She was also different by learning the language and making an actual connection with her people, which I believe is one of the biggest reasons why she was one of the most well-known pharaohs of all time. She was different, and if you want to be memorized, you have to separate yourself from others. You have to stand out. She believed in her views and herself. That is the first step you need to take for others to believe in you and to rely on you as a leader. Her confidence and authority gave her an appeal to powerful men, such as Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. But after her father's death, the ultimate power to the throne relied on Cleo and her brother. At this time, Cleo was 18 and her brother is documented to be 10 to 12 years old at this time. Due to the Egyptian tradition, a female cannot rule without a male consent. In addition to the tradition, siblings in the royal family would ceremoniously wed each other in order to keep power in the royal family. However, because of this, sibling rivalry often occurred, in competition of the soul of the throne. Competition often led to one of the siblings being exiled. This meant Cleo had to be in constant concern of her personal and political safety. She had to make the decisions that would ensure her power and survival. She had many examples in her family to go by. After all, there were many queens named Cleopatra, all which had made many decisions based on approving laws, raising armies, and marching back to their cities both safe and successful. With the independent traditions of these queens, Cleo fell seventh. Because of this, she was motivated to fight for her throne any way she could. Because she was prepared to fight for her throne any way she could, she ended up murdering her brother/husband, who she was in competition with. Although there was rivalry between them, it was no game. However, this did not win over the people of Egypt. But her love of learning and attention towards the subjects made her a better leader and a more well-liked leader than her co-ruler, leaving him hardly as memorized. Above it all, Cleopatra valued her independence and power, as both a woman and a ruler. But before the murder of her co-ruler/brother/husband, when they were working side by side competing against each other, Cleo was banished around 48 BC, fleeing to Syria because of political dispute with her brother and his advisors. But she didn't give up after this. She formed an army on the borders of Egypt and made a plan to meet Julius Caesar, hoping for a political alliance and a way back for her to the throne. Cleo is both recognized for her charm and her ruthless ways, creating a love-hate relationship between her people, who were both frightened by her name but overjoyed by her presence. Cleo persuaded people with her personality and intelligence. She had a charm that made people adore her. She used this charm not only to win over her people, but also to get Julius Caesar and Mark Antony on her sides. Putting away her charm, she could also be a ruthless military advisor. When she fought hard. She made links to Rome based on Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, links to Italy and Persia with helping Mark Antony, and minor links to Asia with Julius Caesar. However, she knew how to do and make these connections on her own. Only, for a woman, it's much more complicated, even when you're a political leader. The Battle of Actium was the final battle of Cleo and Antony, and they had lost it. It was the first major battle, maybe the first battle at all Cleo had lost. Maybe it was the depression she faced because she lost the battle. Maybe it was because she knew Octavian would execute her, likely both reasons why she committed suicide on August 30th, 30 BC, by using a poisonous Egyptian serpent. In conclusion, Cleopatra had difficulties and limitations as well because she was a female leader. Although she was independent at times and is a huge symbol for the powerful woman, she needed a powerful man at her side because likely otherwise she probably wouldn't have been taken as seriously. She took matters into her own hands and she worked with the laws and rules as much as she could, but stepped over boundaries when she felt like she needed to. Instead of going out humiliated and out of power, she decided to die a more memorable and honorable death. Even after her famous death, she was still considered a leader. Even though she wasn't your typical leader, she received power even after her death. Cleopatra will always be memorized in history not only as a powerful woman, but a powerful leader in general.